Today is Tuesday, April 21st, 2015. I'm Dan Benjamin. This is the Dan Benjamin Hour, known across the internet as the best show on the internet. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate that. It's a weird day. I feel like I've been awake for the whole day already. I don't know why. Do you ever wake up and feel that way, Hattie?
I do.
You wake up and you feel like you as soon as you swing out of the bed.
Or like you didn't actually sleep. You just kind of closed your eyes for a second and you just open them and you're like,
Piriformis syndrome.
Piriformis maximus.
Piriformis maximus title. Piriformis syndrome. That's what they call the issue. And it sucks. I've got a couple quick announcements that I want to make. We've got an Android guy coming on. He will be on Thursday because our original Thursday guest was going to be the Wired dude.
Yep, David Pierce.
But he had some kind of strange conflict. Conflict of interest? No. Scheduling conflict. What are you doing?
What am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm putting in the
title. You looked very
that
angry, and you looked like your face had witched out.
I can't see. It's very hard to see through my mic.
Okay. So David Hyde Pierce cannot be here on Thursday, but he's switched to next week. And so Greg just told me that he got Ron Amadeo. Ron Amadeo will be on the show this Thursday.
What's your name, dude?
So I'm very excited. He's a very, very well-known Android writer. Super, super smart dude. So I'm looking forward to that. Today, if he ever accepts our request, we have Will Carroll, the Will Carroll. I feel like I should just get him on video, but he's probably not ready for that. So I'm not even going to mess with you know how we have that cool little blackboard thing that you do? Little blackboard thing you made? Are you working on that now? Because there's a weird image in there. But I'm not going to use that anymore.
No, that's if we were taking calls.
Oh, I like that.
See, and then you have the number to call down there. You could say, wonderful listener is on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And then, or we could have call in at this number.
People were complaining, so I want to address the complaint. They were saying that that I should actually show the video of the guest like I used to do in 2006 and years following it, that I should show the video stream of the Skype guest. That's what I should be showing instead of our little blackboard with the person's picture and name, because they say, well, it's a video show. I want to see the guest. And of course, that's an option for us. It's always been an option. It's something I did years ago. And if I may say, I mastered the art of capturing the video stream from a Skype guest. It's not that hard to do, but a lot of our guests don't want that. They don't want that. They're intimidated. They're not as handsome or beautiful as I am, and they get a little bit scared, a little bit nervous. So that's all right. So we just show the little still image of them and put their name up there and their Twitter handle, and that's what we've been doing. So we'll continue to do that for the guests that don't want to do it. I like the mini me in this shot, but I think we should tweak the shot a little bit.
How would you tweak it? Just
I don't know.
More zoomed in?
Yeah, something. So we are moving. We talked about it yesterday, but now we've confirmed. We actually went. It's only like 3 or 4 doors down the way. It's not very far.
Yep.
And we have confirmed that we are definitely moving. We like the space. We can do a lot. It's a smaller space. We'll save a lot of money. A lot of money. It's a smaller space, but it's actually a much better space for us.
It's
laid out
better for us. I will be sad to see the view go.
You love our view out there.
I do.
We've got to get a picture of this and show it.
We could just take a picture
and
of
put it up. You know what? Put a picture up on the wall.
Paste it on the wall.
It's not worth the difference in money, and this space isn't laid out the way we need it. So when we move, it'll just be down the hall. But I'm very excited about that. We're waiting to hear back on the actual availability date, but it looks like it's June 1st. So it won't disrupt shows or anything like that. We'll just be able to do a seamless move. I've been drinking a lot of water, like Dr. Jill said, and Dr. Jill said she will be on the show. It's just a matter of scheduling Dr. Jill to be in studio and be on the show. But Dr. Jill will be here, and she'll talk about ART, and she'll talk about the way that she saved my life. Also, I made this decision last night after talking to Tim Anthony, as he's known, or Tim Arnold, or Tim Anthony, as I call him. And he he said okay, but we've been working on a new version of the 5x5 iOS app, and we're also going to be working on individual versions of the app that will give you really cool things for each individual show. So for this show, obviously, but other shows as well, letting you stream the app, which you've been able to do. When did I come out with that app? 2009? Is that when I came out with that? Look at that chat room. Chat room help me out. I actually am finally running the chat room here. But if anyone in the chat room knows when I came out with the app, I think it was 2009. And in order to offset my development costs, I charged a little bit of money for it. And then once I paid off my developers, I made it free. And this one's just going to be free from the get-go. It will be an updated version. It will work really well. We're kind of writing it from scratch. It's the same basic app, but we're kind of writing it from scratch again. But here's what I decided, and Tim said, don't do this. But I since when is Tim the boss of me? Tim is not the boss of me. He said, well, let's wait and don't announce it or anything. We are going to be, and I figure why not? Because I don't want to make any money out of this, and I just want to make it easier for other podcasters. We're going to open source the app itself so that once it's built, you will be able to download the source code and see how we're doing it and make your own app that you can use to connect up to your own, like Icecast, Shoutcast stream and stream your own show. Why not? It seems like there's no reason not to do this. I just think I think we should help as many people out as we can. And it's not like that's a proprietary technology. It's not like it's some big secret. I'm going to give this away. I want to help people out and do something that
I'm nice.
Because I'm nice, but because I think a lot of people, this is a big challenge to do. It may be more trouble than it's worth. I don't know yet. We're not going to support it. But maybe in return, the development community will help find ways to add features and make it better. And that's my hope, is that it will make it better, and then we can continue to release the app. And if people like it, then they can donate and say thanks on Patreon. That's it. If people don't want to donate, that's fine. But they won't be able to use it for commercial purposes. It will be only for free, and I'll have to give their app away free if they do it this way. That's my rule. I'm laying down the law about that. So Tim said don't announce it and don't talk about it publicly, so I won't. And then the last thing that I have is we've got a new segment that we've been working on called Taste Test, which we need. I guess Daniel Jackson's going to have to. Man, you were tired. You are tired. I almost got you.
I haven't finished my coffee yet.
Oh my gosh. Why haven't you not finished?
Cheers, microphone.
Yeah. So I want to announce that it's called Taste Test, and we are going to be tasting strange things. And so I'm not so much trying to do something like, oh, let's go and eat live octopus. It's not that kind of thing. What cued me into thinking about this was Mad Men. In the most recent episodes of Mad Men, they've been talking about Sanka. And I grew up and I knew, people drank Sanka all the time. But I can't remember what Sanka tasted like. And I started thinking we should go get some Sanka and taste the Sanka. And you asked right away, you're like, what's a Sanka?
What's Sanka?
And I thought it would be fun to taste things like Sanka. And then someone else suggested Tang. I'm much more interested in those kinds of things. I would try, you ever heard of Pocari Sweat from South Korea?
I have heard of that.
I would like to taste Pocari Sweat.
I don't like that it's called sweat.
Pocari Sweat. I had that in Korea. But I think things like that would be fun to try, fun to taste and try on the show. And we could then release that just as its own little 2-minute or 5-minute segment or whatever, where we'll taste something weird. I would love to hear your suggestions on this, but here is the catch. Both Hattie and I are gluten free, so that means that we won't be able to taste anything with gluten in it. That rules out a bunch of things. I'll give you an example of something that I just found out that is going to be ruled out, and that is Vegemite. Did you know that, Hattie, that Vegemite has gluten in it?
I did not know that.
It does.
Because it sounds like it's a vegetarian dish. It seems like it would.
Lots of vegetarian dishes have. And so someone else suggested Soylent.
Marmite is what someone else said.
Marmite Is someone keeping a tally of these?
I can.
Marmite, Soylent, Tang, Sanka. I hope someone's keeping track of this.
This is our concern, dude.
So I'm worried about that. Anyway, we want to taste these different things. They don't have to be beverages, but I think it'll be a fun segment. So thanks to everyone who suggested it. The best way to suggest this right now is going to be to hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Dan Benjamin on Twitter, and we'll be testing lots of different things.
Follow up.
Yes, go ahead, caller.
5x5 radio version 1.0 posted April 25th, 2012.
Thank you. So it's not 2009, it's 2012.
12.
Thank you. All right, now our first sponsor, and then the news. Don't fast forward through these sponsors. How about this? If you want to fast forward through the sponsors, you can reduce your karmic debt by going to patreon.com/5x5 and donate $100 for every sponsor you skip. That we wouldn't need any.
Perfect.
Has Google? Oh wait, I'm jumping ahead. See, I'm so excited. I keep looking at this screen. But let me tell you about this one called MailRoute. MailRoute. Yesterday I talked a lot about MailRoute because I'm so impressed with their service. Think of a world that isn't overwhelmed by crappy spam and viruses. Imagine opening your email and seeing only the legit mail that you want, the mail you actually need. I had a domain, danbenjamin.com. It was one of the first domains I ever got. And I ran this thing for years, and eventually my email address, dan@danbenjamin.com, found its way onto every single list, every spammer list. I was getting hundreds of emails a day that were just spam. And every time I said, oh man, I really want to go back and I really want to start using this email address again because it's my email address, my old one. It became impossible, absolutely impossible to use it. And nothing, I tried running it through Google. I tried running it through those add-ons you can get to Mail app. None of them caught all of the horrible, horrible spam. And I tried every day to unsubscribe and more things would just keep coming. So I gave up with it. And then when MailRoute came around, I said, well, let me see if this really works or not. So I got on a MailRoute. I put the domain in. Basically, the way it works is you set, for the geeks out there, you set up your mail exchanger to be MailRoute. And then they forward it to your regular email server. And they support LDAP and Active Directory and TLS and something called mailbagging, which is not to be confused with teabagging. Different thing. Completely different thing. And they handle everything for you, and it cleans, and it worked. It worked. So I've been using my email address again. I'm so happy to have it back. I don't get any spam on it anymore. I don't miss any emails either. But I don't get any spam on it. And if you go to the domain, mailroute.net is where you're going to go. And kudos to the MailRoute people for setting up Dan Sent Me. Mailroute.net/Dan Sent Me for a free trial and 10% off for the lifetime of your account. I love MailRoute. I'm a MailRoute user now. Mailroute.net/Dan Sent Me. Thanks very much to them for supporting the show. Hattie Cook, has Google found the Loch Ness Monster, yes or no?
I hope so.
The answer is no. Well, not really. But they are trying. They're involved in trying to search Loch Ness. So they are using Street View cameras to capture parts of the Scottish Loch, and they are taking images above and below the water. And you can now, by going to it's a special Google site on this that we have in the show notes, you can yourself sort of traverse the loch and see if you can find the Loch Ness Monster. I'm showing for people who are viewing this at home, the people who are not viewing this at home, rather, you can see what we're talking about. The Surgeon's Photograph. The Surgeon's Photograph title, Hattie, is a picture of the little Loch Ness Monster. And the first thing Hattie said when she saw this, she said, oh, that looks tiny. It looks small.
I've always thought it just looks little. It looks like a little toy boat sitting in the way the little ripples are on the front of on the photograph.
Can you describe what we're looking at?
It is a black and white photo of very close up of the water, to me it seems like. And then there's a tiny black silhouette of something rising up out of the water. It looks like a Loch Ness Monster shape is what I would describe it as.
All right. Well, anyway, that is the Loch Ness Monster Surgeon's Photograph. Anyway, you can go and explore the Loch now with Google, And they even have there are 200,000 searches each month for the Loch Ness Monster to Google Maps, and around 120,000 for information and accommodation close to Loch Ness. Yet, quote, few people even know what the loch looks like. Well, now you'll be able to see it. And when you do the search, there is a little Nessie peg man. They call that a peg man. When you're traversing a map, the little person standing that represents you, that's a peg man. Well, the peg man for the loch is it's a little Loch Ness monster-ish looking thing with a little Scottish
newsboy
cap with the yellow pom-pom on it. And Google, of course, today, because today is the 81st anniversary of the publication of the infamous surgeon's photograph, the one that had so eloquently described, is showing 3 aliens inside of a submarine, the top of which looks like the Loch Ness Monster, and they are piloting the loch itself. So this is very, very, very fun and very cool. I know that my boy is going to like this, but I have a couple of articles in the show notes. Show notes are at 5by5.tv/dbh/33. That's where you can go. And I'm showing right now Google Maps special kind of focus on the loch and on being underwater and what it looks like. And you can swim all around with the virtual camera and look up. And it's very, very cool. This is a view from the Loch Ness Monster. Now, not to poo-poo all of this, but scientists have pretty clearly debunked the entire Loch Ness theory. They've said that it's just not possible, and they have given so many reasons as to why. So I would like to go over a few of those. This is a great article on Vox right now, and it is written by the famous Phil Edwards.
The theater of the
Wrong soundbite. How about
That's your name, dude.
better? How scientists debunk the Loch Ness Monster, and it shows the surgeon's photograph. And here are the reasons why. You know, in science, I don't know if you know this. In science, they want proof. They look for proof.
The proof is in the pudding.
Proust. Proof. And they say there hasn't been a single convincing sighting of Nessie ever. So that's a good reason no one's ever seen it. 2, if Nessie were real, we'd find bones of its ancestors, and we haven't. 3, even if Nessie did exist, Loch Ness wouldn't be big enough to sustain it. What? What? Well, it's true. Here's what they say. Quote, this is something any biologist could tell you right away. There's a wider range it would require. Prothero, who's a person who's sort of debunking this. If there were a Loch Ness Monster, there would need to be an entire population of the creatures so they could reproduce, but no one has ever produced any evidence that there's a herd of monsters. There aren't even wild rumors or hoaxes to this effect. More importantly, Loch Ness is simply too small to sustain a plesiosaur or similarly sized creature. Researchers with the Loch Ness and Morar project say there are only about 22 tons of fish in the lake. That sounds like a lot, but for giant breeding plesiosaurs, it would be nowhere near enough. Loch Ness just isn't big enough or fertile enough for a monster this size. They go on to say, number 4, it's too cold for a reptile. Loch Ness was covered in ice until relatively recently. How long ago? 18,000 years. Sounds like a while. But as far as I know, dinosaurs were not roaming the earth 18,000 years ago. Here's the quote. All the lakes were underneath at least a mile of ice. There was no lake there. These lakes are young features. There's no place for that animal to be if there's no lake. Could it have originated in the Atlantic Ocean, moved into Loch Ness in the last 20,000 years? Yes. But there's no path that they could have used to have done so. So if you believe in science, it's getting more and more difficult to believe this. So then there's some speculation. Why did the myth catch on so much? Because of the King Kong movies. The early King Kong movies, dinosaurs were popular. The Lost World, Arthur Conan Doyle's Lost World, 1933, the movie King Kong. A lot of these things it's kind of made us feel like there were maybe dinosaurs there. Could be still a dinosaur. Don't you want to see a dinosaur?
Yes.
I do.
Well, and it gives people something kind of to not look forward to, but just kind of wish it was real in a way.
Uh-huh.
I think people like that.
The Loch Ness Monster draws 1 million people per year to the region, pulls in an estimated 25 million pounds. Alexa, how much is 25 million pounds in dollars?
25 million pounds is $37,220,000.
37 million bucks, she says, in case you couldn't hear that. I'm going to put a marker. Remind me that marker 3 is where she talks, because we don't currently have her mic'd up. And I'm wondering if she's just loud enough for us to be picked up by the mics.
You want to see if it works.
I just want to see if it worked. That's all I care about. For some reason, there is a resurgence in this discussion of Google being able to, you can delete your entire history on Google. And the reason why, as Sean Hollister points out, you can download your Google history now or delete it. And I don't know when this thing came out. I think they're just finding this, so people are talking about it. But you can delete all of your history, and you've been able to for years. But now you can download an archive. An archive. If you want to do this, be careful. Because if you're worried about privacy concerns on Google itself, who knows what computer would you be downloading all of your history, all your personal stuff? Bookmarks, searches. Anyway, you can do this. You can download it. And what's funny is in the warning, when you say that you want to download it, Google has a little message up at the top. It says, please read this carefully. It's not the usual yada yada title.
Not the usual yada yada.
But you can create an archive of all your search data and you download it. I'm in favor of deleting all of your search data on Google. But if you do that, apparently it can cripple how Google Now virtual assistant works, because it uses search data and other things to know about you. As a courtesy, I've also put a link in there for you which explains how to remove your Google search history before you, or after you download it rather. And this article, which was written way back in 2012, says before Google's new privacy policy takes effect. Well, that already took effect years and years ago, but the article and the instructions in it are still perfectly relevant. Really great news for so many people. I think people are going to be super excited about this, and it is going to be, I would say, this is our story of the week.
Story of the week. It's the story of the week.
Jeff would probably not like us co-opting that song.
No.
Sorry, with apologies to Jeff, who I have a man crush on and I love. So it's okay. I'm not stealing it as ours. I mean, I'm crediting him.
We just love it so much.
He's so good. He's so good.
Story of the week.
All right. Microsoft lets you control PowerPoint for iOS from an Apple Watch. So this is our story of the week. Just kidding. Microsoft's not going anywhere. But now if you have an Apple Watch and you're using PowerPoint, because Apple people don't use Keynote, right?
No.
They don't use Keynote. They use PowerPoint. You can get this and remote control it. You can control your presentations with your Apple Watch.
I bet we'll see Tufty up there controlling his presentations with his Apple Watch.
Yeah. There is a OneDrive update, and they're just a 1-2 punch over it with Microsoft. So PowerPoint for iPhone allows future Apple Watch owners to control presentations from their wristlet watches. Very exciting. It's our story of the week. Wow. Okay, let me tell you about Wealthfront. Wealthfront's automated investment service that makes it easy to invest your money right away. Yesterday, Heidi, you were asking me investment questions, and you know what? I was just going to direct you right to Wealthfront, because their comprehensive website has a lot of information. And basically what you do is you go there, you give them your cash, you give them your spare cash that you want to invest, and they'll invest it for you intelligently. They reinvest your dividends. They get started working immediately 24/7 to manage all these investments, and you get tax-efficient trades, reduced after-tax returns. What does all this mean? Basically, it means you're going to be set up when you retire because you're going to be investing smart and you're going to be investing early. And they do this all online. You go to their website, wealthfront.com/5x5. You go there. And when you fill out a very basic profile, and then they know how to invest aggressively, conservatively, or somewhere in between. And they charge only 0.25% per year, which is less than a quarter of the cost of a traditional investment advisor. And 5x5 listeners of this show, will get their first 10,000 managed for free when you visit that URL I mentioned, wealthfront.com/5x5, 10,000 managed free. Most people would have this, would save them a lot of time. I don't see why everyone isn't doing this. So go check it out. Now I have to read this disclaimer. You know what? I'm going to use today's recording as the disclaimer. I'm going to put that on the soundboard. And I'm just going to hit that button whenever it's time to do it. So I'm going to drop a marker. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try and get this right. Wealthfront Inc. is an SEC-registered investment advisor. Brokerage services are offered through Wealthfront Brokerage Corporation, member FINRA and SIPC. This is not a solicitation to buy or sell securities. Investing in securities involves risk, and there is the possibility of losing money. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Please visit wealthfront.com to read the full disclosure. I nailed it. Hattie, that's marker 5.
Nailed it.
Marker 5. It's tiring to read that disclosure. Beyonce is wearing a gold Apple Watch that you can't buy. Beyonce. Love Beyonce. She's great.
She's queen.
But apparently you can't buy this watch. And if you could, it would be more than $17,000, which is the price of all these watches. And the watch that she's wearing is an edition watch with that, we talked about it last week, that Karl Lagerfeld was wearing. But it has that gold link band. Here's a shot of it on Karl's wrist. They don't sell these. Even if you're buying the edition, which starts at $10K, you still can't buy this fancy bracelet. You just can't get it. And there are some theories here that The Verge has. Chris Ziegler. Here's the quote. This ultra-luxurious edition model is quietly being made available to the wealthiest of Apple's customers, but it's intentionally hidden from public view and Apple's promotional materials, perhaps to shield a price tag that could run into the tens and tens of thousands of dollars. Think of it as a secret menu, like ordering a quesarito from Chipotle. Well, there's another explanation that they offer up, which is the public will never be able to buy this, regardless of how wealthy you are. Apple is just gifting the gold band to its celebrity pals, its friends, its special friends, to stir up interest and make something that's just super impossible to get. Yesterday, I've just showed up and brought a whole bunch of variations of the sport band to the Milan Design Week a few days ago. So Apple's doing stuff, and why not? They don't have rules. There's no rules that say they have to offer the same thing to everybody. HBO is starting to crack the whip.
Do we have a whip sound?
That's the closest I think I have to it. To a whip. Sounds like a whip. They are saying that people who are using like these VPN services and like tools that block HBO service in other countries, and you could come in from like the UK and it would tunnel through a VPN and make it look like you're in the US. They're making it so that you can't use the HBO Now service, even though these customers are paying for it. But it's like to subscribers that are outside the US. So people like Canada, UK, Germany, Australia, if you're using a VPN, they're threatening account terminations. Well, they launched HBO Now, and you would think, who cares where they are? Why does it matter? Well, here's what they say. It has come to our attention that you may have signed up for and viewed video content on the HBO Now streaming service from outside of the authorized service area, the U.S., including D.C., and certain U.S. territories. We would like to take this opportunity to remind you that HBO Now streaming service is only available to residents of the United States for use within the United States. Any other access is prohibited by our terms of use. Why? Why? Doesn't really explain why, but that's their licensing deal. That's what they license content for. So that's it. So if you're doing that, please stop doing that. Did Will ever come back to us? Did he ever
Yes, he
acknowledge?
is ready.
You never
Yep.
told me that.
Well, I was getting to you. I was letting you finish.
I'm going to let
Will's
you
here
finish.
and ready.
Will's ready. All right. We'll get him in 1 second. I just got a couple little quick things. Why are they showing this freakish?
Oh my gosh.
What is this thing?
It's so scary.
What is that? Seriously, what is it? I'm asking. Describe this thing.
It is a fake human face over a robot's body, and its eyes are crossed, And it has the most
It's
defined facial
freakish.
features. It's so scary. Hellish? Can you use that
Yes,
term?
this is a freakish thing. Basically, this is an article over on CNET. It's a humanoid robot, and the point of this thing is that it will read your facial expressions, and it can then reply to your own. Now, there's something called the Uncanny Valley, and the Uncanny Valley is this thing that says if something looks if you have an automaton of some kind, and the automaton has an uncanny resemblance to a human being, but still seems robotic, that it will freak you the heck out.
And it won't be cute.
And it won't be cute. That's why a lot of the time when you see computer animated movies and things like that, they are, the characters don't look too real. That's why the old Toy Stories are kind of creepy. The Toy Stories are a little
Sid.
creepy. Yeah, they're a little weird. But if you make them cute, like, what's the one with the Minions? What movie is that?
Despicable Me.
Like, they're all cute. Look at all the Pixar movies. They're all cute. Now look at Brave. Brave is realistic, especially in the world that surrounds the characters.
But their body shapes
But
are
their
exaggerated.
body shapes are exaggerated. Their heads are exaggerated. It's a very good way to put it. So you got something like this. This face is freaking me out right now.
They also made the
It's
face...
creepy, and the eyes move in a weird way, and it looks pompous. Look at the way it's looking around. Right there. Look at that. It looks pompous. Do it. Yeah, it looks pompous. I don't understand. It looks like it's looking down upon you like it's royal, and I hate it.
They could have put a shirt on the rest of the body, too.
I know.
It's just the skin just stops in like a perfect
Oh,
line.
it's gross.
And then it's clear.
It's
Ugh.
gross. It
Yeah.
looks like a flap of loose skin hanging off the
I don't
face.
like the word flap.
It is.
Skin.
Looks like a flap of skin, and then you get this old man face, and the hair piece that he's wearing, instead of hair, he's got plastic, and the plastic looks exactly like, what's the guy's name in Fifth Element? I always forget his name. Zorg?
Zurg?
Zurg? Is it Zurg or is Zurg the planet?
And which one's in Toy Story? Zurg and Zorg.
There is no Zorg. Only Zool. Anyway, I don't know. This thing's creeping me out.
Yeah.
It's really creeping me out. Clear is deleting dumb tweets before you regret them. Yeah, I thought when I first saw this, I thought it was talking about Clear like the Scientologists. But it's not. There's a wait list to get Clear. Not the to-do list. It's a different app. You connect Clear to your Facebook and Twitter accounts, and after it analyzes all of this stuff. And then it comes back and says, well, these are these old tweets that maybe you want to delete. Maybe there's some profanity in them, or maybe there's some other things it thinks you will want to remove to make your old tweets less hateful and more tolerant. So that's Clear. Go get that app if you're that worried about it. Last news story of the day. Spotify ad revenue has jumped 53% in quarter one.
Whoa.
53%. A lot of people are streaming. A lot of people are streaming. They haven't confirmed what the increase amounts to in monetary terms. But all of a sudden, people are using this service and they are paying for this service. Spotify, music. This is the future, people. Pay attention to this kind of service. People no longer feel like they need to buy stuff and have it. They want to subscribe. They want to subscribe to it per month. That's the future. If you're building a model with something, be paying attention to this, okay? The last thing I want to show you today, a guy named Paul Tweedy, Paul 2ED on Twitter, number 2, has put up this amazing picture of a bird. And the bird is, what kind of bird is this? Did we find out?
I don't think we find out, but someone can. Chat room.
It is an amazing bird, and it is a photo of the bird in the sky, and its wings are closed, and it looks very angry, and it has a very mean little face and a little pointy little black beak, and its little feet are tightly held up right against its body.
Very streamlined.
Very streamlined bird. And Paul says, This bird keeps itself in the air by sheer force of anger alone. And if you're only going to look at one thing on Twitter today, look at this one thing, because this bird is amazing. And with that, I would say it is time now for me to do my final sponsor
And then
while you get Will Carroll, the amazing Will Carroll up. Let me tell you about Tripcase. Today's episode is brought to you by Tripcase, helping people take over 30 million trips. They collect your flight, hotel, and other trip data into a single app on your phone or tablet. You get free flight notifications if you get delayed or when your gate changes, and you get support. Now they have support for Pebble and Android Wear, and they've just announced Apple Watch support, one of the first travel apps for the Apple Watch. You can view your upcoming trip. You can save the place, like you find a cool restaurant or something while you're on your trip. It's just so cool, and they've made a special URL, tripcase.com/DBH, tripcase.com/DBH, and you get the Uber integration, free flight alerts, sharing your trip, remembering the place, destination, weather, seat maps, you name it. Tripcase.com/DBH. Thanks very much to them for supporting the show.
Well, and I can't believe they have the new Apple Watch app.
It's already there.
I know.
It's already there.
They're ready.
It's already there. All right, get Will on the phone. You think this is going to go seamlessly?
I think it is.
I didn't
He's
set
ready.
up a video thing for him. He's ready, huh?
He just said he was ready.
You calling the right Will?
I was just typing to him.
Maybe he dropped his mic. Will?
Hey, Dan. How's it going?
Hey, there he is.
The love of technology. Don't you love it?
I do
the
love
best.
technology. Now, Will.
But next time we talk, I could be talking to you on my watch, right?
That's right. You will actually be Skyping to me from your watch. Will, for those who don't know you, you are in a new place. You're still at your new gig, right? We can say FanDuel, right?
You can absolutely say FanDuel. I'm excited about it. We're the leader in one-day fantasy sports. Giving away, get this. This is the number that blows me away. During baseball season, which of course isn't nearly as big as NFL fantasy season, the winnings that we're going to be paying out every single day is $2.5 million.
Wow.
Absolutely huge. If you haven't tried this yet, go to FanDuel.com. One Day Fantasy League. We've taken all the crap. Everything that's bad about fantasy, we took it out, and we added in real money.
That's pretty awesome. I mean, this is legal, right? People can do this.
This is legal. There's actually a law that was passed in 2006. For those people that played poker, it was the law that made that illegal in most areas. But there's actually a carve-out for fantasy sports. And our CEO, Nigel Eccles, figured out, hey, there's this carve-out. There's a business here. And it's pretty exciting how big it's grown.
So this is so there's a couple things I wanted to try and do today, just to start out with, because yesterday and today are kind of interesting days for the NFL and for people who follow the NFL. But before we go to that, there is this huge industry where sports and kind of the geek space combine together, and there are a lot of people, I think, who very much take that sort of, sports ball, watch guys run around and bump into each other and throw. And then I meet a lot of other people who really do enjoy sports. And when I was a kid growing up in school, you were either a jock or not. And I was definitely on the not side of that. I was not very good at any sports. I could watch them, and I did find in my kind of grade school years that I really enjoyed watching football, and eventually grew to really enjoy baseball when I got a little bit older as well. But that seems to not happen for a lot of self-described geeks. It's sort of something that doesn't happen for them. And so then my feeling is that they feel excluded, very much the way that I felt excluded by not being able to play and not really understanding sports for a long time. That they feel excluded. They say that's just stupid stuff. It's not interesting. It's not for me. That's the different kind of person. But I don't feel that that's true, Will. And I've never been able to put my finger on something that I could say or do that would kind of open people's minds once they're sort of closed off into the sports ball mentality?
Yeah.
What, is there a way?
Yeah, I think there is. I think the first thing that I always try to do is to figure out why they felt excluded. And a lot of that was something that happened to them in high school. Maybe they, we've all got our something, and, sports is not everybody's something. When you see the kind of players that are playing all this week in the NBA playoffs, or when you see, when you stand next to one of the giants that plays football, and I'm not just talking the linemen. I actually saw Andrew Luck last week, the quarterback here in Indianapolis, all pro. You stand next to him and you're like, oh my God, he's 6'5", goes about 250.
Oh man.
That's the quarterback.
That's crazy. That is just crazy.
And you see him standing behind the line. Okay, so I am never going to be 6'5", 250.
Right.
250 I could reach. 6'5", just not going to happen. Yeah, there is that exclusion. And yeah, unfortunately, jocks and geeks have notoriously been anti each other.
Right.
We used to joke about the geeks. And as somebody who kind of straddled that line on the same way, when I was hanging out with my geek friends, we would joke that they would be working for us someday, those jocks, and most of them are. However, in America, because of the popularity of sports, and this is even true in Europe, this is even true in Asia, sports becomes something of a cultural shorthand. How about those cults? Is something I can say to virtually anyone in Indianapolis and get a positive response, even though it's the middle of April. You can do that with wherever you are. You guys down there in Austin, first thing you say is, how about them Longhorns? How about them Cowboys?
Right.
And you're going to get a response. Don't you want to be able to have a reasonably intelligent response? In most of these cases, you're going to get one of two responses. You're going to get a very enthusiastic response, and the person will know a lot, and you have to try not to get in over your head. Or you get the, oh, you're one of those sports guys. And I've never understood this. This is one of the few places where we can have a real commonality. I have a great relationship with my dad. We didn't always have that, but we could always communicate in sports.
Right.
It was that language that we had. He didn't understand how much I loved movies.
Right.
We didn't read the same kind of books. We don't have the same friends, but we watched the same sports teams. And we could talk about that, even when we could talk about absolutely nothing else. I had a conversation on a plane flying back the other day with somebody who, look, he explained his job to me and I didn't understand it. He was in medical pharmacology. He developed new drugs, and I'm thankful there are people like that, but you know what? On a 2-hour flight, we could have talked for about 2 minutes about his job before it was over my head.
Right.
Talk about what the Colts are doing in the draft. We probably could have gone another 2 hours.
Right.
Thankfully, the flight wasn't delayed. So I think it's just one of those things of cultural knowledge that we have to have. Look, I think you ought to know who Darth Vader is.
Right.
But maybe not Boba Fett if you're going to get along in American society. Same thing with sports. Have some level of cultural literacy. And if you don't, you're going to be excluded from a lot of things, but you're doing it yourself.
Right. I think that's a fantastic answer. And I almost feel bad because, there are people who will say, oh, look, and by the way, your Twitter handle is Injury Expert. You're at Injury Expert on Twitter, and you do talk a lot about sports injuries and things. And there are people who will say, oh, well, and I'll pick on the NFL because everyone can pick on the NFL right now. They'll say, look, they're having problems with that. There are guys who are getting hurt. We've talked about that a number of times on the show. And they use that as a reason to sort of blanket dislike all sports except soccer. Everyone seems to like soccer. But there are plenty of sports out there that don't involve getting hurt as part of scoring points. There's plenty of really great sports out there, and I feel like if people could get past this injury that they may have had, and when I say injury, I'm not talking physical, I'm talking emotional or mental injury that they had on the playground like you're talking about, or in high school or something like that, if they can get past that, there's a great, as you've pointed out, a great kind of universal bonding kind of thing that happens. And let me tell you where this could be potentially important for example, and you may discard these things. You may say these things are not important. You may say if this is what I have to do, then I don't want to do it at all. It's not worth my doing. But think about it like this. I cannot tell you how many times in my life, especially in my earlier career doing sales and things like that, we did a lot of in-person sales, how simply being conversant
Yep.
in speaking about a sports event or a team or something like that, just being simply conversant about it, not saying, could you believe the third quarter, what happened here? No, just being able to say, I understand the things that happened with this team recently. That can give you such an advantage when talking to people who do not exactly fit into the same mold of I carry the brand new iPhone 6 and we can talk about that, being able to meet your potential. And this is, of course, a little more toward guys and women, but to be able to meet potentially your new father-in-law and be able to speak to him about his favorite teams or about things. This elevator conversation, if you will, it can be so important. Now, listen, before we get too off on that tangent, there's some big stuff happening in the NFL right now. Obviously, we can talk about a sport that I care about, NFL, and we can talk about a team I care about, which is the Eagles, and we can talk about Tim Tebow. I want to hit that real quick. But then there's something special that's happening tonight at 8, and I would like for you to tell me why that's important and why people might be able to use that as jumping off point, the same way that I used Secret Wars to really get into comics in the 80s. What's happening tonight at 8 that people might get kind of interested in, because geeks like stats and numbers and facts and things. So first we'll hit the Tim Tebow thing. What do you think of Tim Tebow playing as a quarterback on the Philadelphia Eagles?
I was intrigued by something I saw yesterday, and I'm talking to people trying to figure out, I've got a couple calls out to people. There was a picture of Tim Tebow signing his contract yesterday with the Philadelphia Eagles, and he was signing it left-handed.
Really?
Yeah, is he left-handed? Did he just have the pen in his left hand? This might explain a lot of things if Tim Tebow is in fact left-handed and throws the ball with his right. I'm very, very curious about this. Maybe just a picture, but I'm trying to get some confirmation on that.
That's
but
funny.
Tebow is
interesting.
Yeah, Tebow is an exceptionally polarizing figure. Perhaps the most polarizing figure in football. Maybe the only thing that comes close is Des Bryant. Or there's a lot of debate, if you want to get deeper inside it, of a guy named Dorial Green Beckham. And we'll talk about him in a bit. Tim Tebow hasn't been very good. He's just not a very good. In his best season, he was the 43rd best rated quarterback in the NFL. So here's a guy who, because he's popular, because he's very polarizing, because he's outspoken in terms of his religion and some of the things he does, people flat out either love him or hate him. And there's just not much of a middle ground.
Yeah.
But neither of them have been able to say he's a very good player.
Right.
You get your own opinions, you don't get your own facts. And he's been successful at times when he was with Florida, when he was with Denver, a little bit, but they had the chance to bring in Peyton Manning, who was clearly better, and Tim Tebow was no hesitation there. They were like, see you, Tim, thanks.
Right.
The Eagles are an interesting fit because they have two quarterbacks already in. There's questions about whether they're going to try to draft one of the top quarterbacks, Marcus Mariota. They would love to have Mariota, who was with Eagles coach Chip Kelly back at Oregon when he was a college coach. I don't think they're going to be able to get him. I think Mariota is going to go in the second overall pick. But bringing in Tebow immediately polarizes things. The question is, how does he fit in? Chip Kelly, the coach of the Eagles, is on record as saying, we're not a Tim Tebow kind of team.
Right.
And they're really not.
Right.
So I'm curious about this. I want to see how it's going to come out. I honestly think this is a media move. I think this is going to take all the heat off of Chip Kelly and especially off Sam Bradford. Now, Sam Bradford was a first overall pick a few years ago, got a $70 million deal, the last of the big draft deals before they slotted those guys.
Right.
But he's had 2 seasons of missed time because of knee injuries. Now, they made a big trade, brought him in, very criticized. Tim Tebow's going to get all the coverage.
Mhm.
ESPN is doing nothing but Tebow today for the second day. The NBA playoffs are going on. There's so many things in sports going on, but they're talking Tim Tebow because he is this polarizing figure. I think he's going to take all the heat off Bradford. Everybody's going to say, how's Tim Tebow doing today? They're not going to watch Bradford in practice. They're not going to want to talk to Bradford. I think it's a smokescreen.
You know, it's interesting. I hadn't thought of that, and I think you're onto something there. And when you use the term smokescreen, you know, it makes me think about all the things that happen. People get so interested in politics. They get so interested in these lawsuits between Samsung and Apple and Google and whoever else. There's a lot of that happens behind the scenes in sports that we just never really hear about. Okay, the last thing before I let you go, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, the NFL will be announcing the schedule. Why is this important? Why is this such a big deal that it's a press event, that the NFL Network will be streaming this, you know, showing this live and people all around? I mean, it's not draft day, but it's like second to that maybe. Why is this so interesting and exciting to people?
Yeah, it's up there because the NFL is such a media monster. They've turned these things into events. The Combine, where you get all the players together and test them, has turned into the Underwear Olympics. It's crazy how much interest, things that are simple and that 10 years ago we wouldn't have even noticed. The NFL is a media machine with the NFL Network. They've turned Twitter into basically their own PR. And the schedule is interesting because everybody now figures out who they're going to see. Hey, who's going to play my team at home? Is my team going to play a tough schedule? In the NFL, schedule strength is absolutely key. You'll hear things like first place schedule. If you finished in first place in your division last year, you're going to play a significantly tougher schedule than the team that finished in fourth. And you often see teams go worst to first or first to worst because of who they're going to play. Now, there's a system, there's all sorts of formulas that supposedly equalize it, but strength of schedule is virtually everything. So they've turned this into a media event. And if I can throw one more thing in here, Dan.
Yeah, do it.
There's another event tonight at 8 o'clock that I think our geek friends are really going to love. It's going to be on MLB Network. And the Nationals-Cardinals game is going to be the season date, or actually the debut period of something called StatCast. They're basically going to track everything that goes on the field. They've got 21 cameras. They've got radar tracking the ball. And they're going to be able to tell you now, not just that the pitch was going 90 miles an hour, but that the pitch was going 90 miles an hour. It was 86 miles at the plate. It left the bat at a 10.4 degree angle at 114 miles per hour. This guy ran 68 feet to catch the ball and threw it 110. You're going to be able to see all of this in real time. They can overlay if a guy hits it to the right all the time, they can overlay that. You can see where the defenders are. You can see how much range those defenders have shown. A lot of people have described this as turning baseball into a video game. I don't think it's quite that, because you're really not affecting things. But we're going to have so much information to take in. I think it's really going to change how people watch. So I would advise, if you just like technology, this is your chance to watch a baseball game and watch the tech rather than the sports. If you're a sports fan, you're going to get a ton of information. So at 8 o'clock tonight, you can watch MLB Network for that. You can watch NFL Network for the schedule. Tons of stuff. And, of course, the NBA, their playoffs going on tonight. And if you haven't watched Steph Curry play, do that.
A lot of great stuff to watch. Will, thanks for being here. You are at Injury Expert on Twitter. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. And where else can people go to find you? Obviously, you're working over at FanDuel.com now, so they can go there. And is that it? Best places for you, Injury Expert?
That's it. That is it. I'm exclusive at FanDuel now. Couldn't be more excited. We've got a huge announcement coming tomorrow that I would love to talk to you about next week, Dan.
All right, let's do it. I'll bring you back on next week. Thanks so much for being here. Take care of yourself.
Thanks, Dan.
Have a good one. And you can get those links I mentioned and visit all the other sites that we talked about at 5by5.tv/DBH/32. Thanks for being here, and we will be back tomorrow at 11 Eastern, 10 Central, and 8 Pacific time. Thanks again to Will Carroll, and thanks to you for listening.